TIL The majority of millennials and Gen Z use subtitles when streaming TV. I went to acting class in Hollywood, and one of the things they teach you now is that you don't have to project or enunciate because it's all about being close and intimate now. I think this might be part of the problem. It used to be that people came from the stage where you want your audience to hear you. Now they're telling people to just whisper and mutter everything. I know it's supposed to be real, but there has to be some compromise. It is in fact a show after all, not real life. In real life we can say "What did you say?" We don't have the luxury in movies. I'm a younger millennial, just turned 30, and I personally don't like having to have my TV at high volumes all the time just to hear the dialogue, just to hear a loud ass explosion rumble my whole home a moment later. I don't like loud. If I'm streaming YouTube videos or something on my phone, it's more a privacy thing. I don't want to have conversation with everyone about what I'm watching, and no, it's nothing embarrassing, usually skincare and makeup videos. I just want a moment of peace. I think all of this is about wanting a moment of peace, lol. This has little to nothing to do with one's sound system or even hearing. This is mostly to do with how the sound is sent from the streaming services. Dialogue, compared to the auto-boosted music background sounds, is comparably muted. Good sound techs hate this. And coupled with the occasional mumbling and indecipherable dialogue of some actors, unless you have an exceptional EQ, subtitles is the next best thing. I have an excellent soundbar subwoofer, and I still need to use subtitles for some shows, movies. I do this. And I love when you get lines of dialogue you can't hear normally, which sometimes adds context or depth to a scene. I hate when slang words are spelt wrong. Or when it's badly done, meaning people who actually are hearing impaired can't watch the show. The Rookie has the worst subtitles I've ever seen. Left out tons of dialogue. Pet peeve. When Netflix doesn't translate the foreign languages. Like assholes, they just spoke French for 10 whole minutes. What the heck were they talking about? Guess it's different for me, as most media like games, videos etc. is in English. That's not my native language. I'm fluent in English, but still I use subtitles to get a better way of understanding things, like when characters speak with accents, when there's whispering or mumbling etc. I'm also not used to the cartoonish voices like Marge from The Simpsons. The voices are very different in other languages with synchros, like The Simpsons have more adult-like voices. Yeah, because you can't hear anyone talking and then the loudest gunshot, car crash, banana peel slip ever recorded on Earth. It's ridiculous how bad the sound is across media and streaming. Older stuff converted over is even worse. On a bong with Venture Brothers again. Can't hear anything, and then the action stuff I fumble for the remote. Other people in my house are trying to sleep, or I'm just zoning out before I crash myself. Yeah, and when the sound mixing with dialogue isn't utter shit, I won't need subs. Recently Dune was such a bad offender. Usually I'm able to catch dialogue in theaters, but I swear the characters whisper to each other half the movie with bwap bwap as a BG music. Luckily I was watching in a non-English speaking country, so they were subs, but it was annoying to rely on them when I'm a native English speaker. I'm conditioned from a young age to not have it too loud. My parents would stomp on the floor to let me know it was too loud, lol. Solution was to turn it down and subtitles on. Now 20 years later, if an explosion or loud crash in a movie is too loud, I still instinctively turn it down and turn subtitles on, even though I make the rules now. It's amazing how conditioned you can become from a young age. I watch everything with subtitles at home, not because of anything to do with sound mixing though. I guess YMMV, but I personally find complaints about sound mixing to be generally overblown. For me it's because the act of reading subtitles helps train my eyes onto what I'm watching and helps me pay attention to the show and reduce distractions around me. Same reason I like watching films at the cinema. It's either the quietest dialogue, or the loudest music, or the loudest action sequence. Then if you're unlucky you get both music and action. Easiest option, subtitles. Low-key conspiracy. Streaming companies are backing AAA battery manufacturers as we're churning through the batteries way faster these days as we wrestle with shoddy exploitive sound mixing. It's also because a younger crowd might put a movie or some TV on while they are talking and discussing things, and subtitles makes the overall experience better, so the people who care a bit about whatever they are watching can still follow along with the details while the others are enjoying conversation. Subtitles are great in social events. German here. If you have seen any production that involves actors from the eastern part of Germany or Berlin, be sure to use subtitles. They just mumble their dialogue and rush through it. You won't understand a single word, even they don't speak dialect. Also I am using subtitles on any English or American production, Because it is easier. Gen X and boomers too. Modern acting has a lot to do with mumbling, and I get tired of having to rewind 3 or 4 times just to understand what they are saying. This has a lot to do with modern sound recording. Back in the day when microphones were placed overhead, actors are forced to project or you wouldn't hear them at all. This may upset a few, but this is my only issue with dubbed anime most of the time. I prefer English when I can, just cause it's less brain usage, but still want subtitles per the article, and yet I can't so often because they don't use closed caption, they use fan subs which never match the dub lines and just cause more headaches for me. I'll admit sound mixing can be messy at times, but are most of you just using the built-in TV speakers or something? I have a sound bar and everything sounds fine. Some even have settings to balance the sound better. I'd rather miss a couple of lines at most than have subtitles cover my screen, except for foreign language obviously. Then I must be the exception. I always assumed I was the only one among my friends because they were less confident in their English. From a non-English speaking country BTW. I also just despise subtitles, which makes it extra annoying that cinemas here in Belgium have subs in 2 languages. Even in the Dutch-speaking part, I don't use subtitles because I went to school for video. They're a true eyesore when it comes to cinematography. People saying media isn't recorded mixed well anymore are completely wrong though. It's because most people have a flat screen with those terrible tiny speakers that mud everything up. Buy a soundbar. 1. I have ADHD and easily get distracted by the hot actors. 2. We watch at night after kids are asleep. Volume usually stays at a 3 or 4. 3. We watched a lot of foreign films in a foreign language. 4. It's helping my 5-year-old learn and read. He's an accelerated reader. 5. I can't fucking understand British accents. I'm not a native speaker. 20 years ago I used subtitles to learn English, then I didn't need them any longer. Now I'm back on subtitles. Everyone mumbles. The generations of actors with classical theater training is gone. And while I appreciate that shows are less theatrical, being able to head the audio is gone. I don't know about sound mixing, but I grew up on comic books and have always been an avid reader, so I prefer them. It's also easier to spot when a director times certain shots for certain lines. And I've noticed I don't need to turn it up as loud when they are off. I guess it helped train my ear a bit more. I often have to, but it sucks as it always spoils upcoming dialogue and punchlines. Worse, the English options are usually only available as CC, which means that I get immersion-breaking sound descriptions as well as spoilers of who is important before any reveal when off-screen characters are named in the CC. It's more common in those generations because it's an easy option on most video content now. You can even choose different languages. Before, either the TV program you were watching offered it or it didn't. Then DVDs came along and had more options for audio and subtitles. Streaming offers even more. We started doing this when we had babies and didn't want the TV too loud if they were asleep. Became a habit, default action, and pretty sure it has helped the kids learn to read as they have got older. Plus yeah, sometime I just needed help get the dialogue over background noise and sound effects. I don't get the appeal unless you're watching in a public place or when you should be working. Subtitles ruin the atmosphere because they are very rarely timed right, especially on comedies. Now, if they're done like they were in Slumdog Millionaire, sure, but that requires more effort. A lot of us grew up on DVD where it was an option for the first time. Most of the previous generation was TV, and VHS certainly lacked the option. It also adds significance and almost a second quality to the writing, somewhere between a show and a book. Lines stick in my head more. When I mix audio for movies in Pro Tools, I make sure if you're listening with headphones the music and SFX aren't too loud so you never have to change the volume. Check out 1 vs 100, The Gods is My Friends and the Brother Side of the Wake to hear what good mixing sounds like. I do so when watching at the gym for a few reasons. 1. The noise of the elliptical and background noise. 2. Bad modern mixing. 3. Unfamiliar terms, like in the new DD film. 4. I find it fun to compare what gets abbreviated when the subtitle is shorter than the actual dialogue. Well, technology has also changed that makes it harder to understand the dialogue. Most flat-screen TVs have speakers facing the bottom or the back that makes it harder to hear direct sound. And newer movies have sound mixing optimized for theaters instead of living rooms. The soundbar with settings that allow voice detection and amplification changed my life. I hate subtitles when in English, but like everyone else in here, the mixing is so damn terrible. Now I can hear conversations without getting my eardrums combusted by gunfire or a train, because Netflix sets the default audio to English 5.1, meaning they're assuming you have surround sound. Change it to English or whatever default language you want without 5.1 and the background music and noises simmer down and you can actually hear people talking. Sound and speech quality has gone down significantly compared to 80s, 90s. Now half of the speech is mumbled or jumbled. I can't listen to many shows without subtitles when I'm watching them in English. Especially shows that have a lot of outdoor scenes are horrible, cause audio balance sucks for your typical home viewing setup. Even streaming shows are balanced like people watch them at a theater. I just want to take all the audio of streaming shows and put it through a guitar compression pedal to equalize everything. You tried to watch new movies? Sound editing is rough. I thought I was going deaf, but I can watch older movies just fine without needing them. I hear everything in Rambo and Band of Brothers but have to rewind like 5 times about them not for a rom-com. I don't like subtitles, but I'll turn them on to humor others if I'm watching in a group. If a piece of media can't hold up without you catching every last word, it's not usually that great to begin with. I'd rather spend my time looking at the whole image. I prefer to watch the visuals. I don't want to be staring at text at the bottom of my screen for half of a movie. If you think you're missing dialogue because of the mix, you're certainly going to be missing visual clues if you're reading all the dialogue. Not to be a contrarian, but I see all the people saying that the sound mixing is shit, but isn't the real culprit? I'm sure all the professional audio people know what they're doing. It's the TV manufacturers that are cheaping out on the speakers and audio.